Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing today? How are you guys doing today? Hey, this is Gregory Wiles coming live to you from Houston, Texas with this inspirational morning talk. For first-time listeners, I'm on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8:45 a.m. Central Time. That's our time here in Houston. But it's a great day here. It's a great day here, man. And I know for the folks who celebrate Ash Wednesday who do the Lent period. That's the 40 days before Easter. Who start that today. I just wanna, just wish you a happy Lent period and the beginning today. And almost some people try to give up something, in just that respect of what Jesus did. But just wanna shed some light for the people who observe in Lent and that start today, which is Ash Wednesday. So, Littleton, Tony, how are you doing, big bro? How are you doing today? Hope all is well with you, man. Thanks for checking in. Yeah, but today I want to talk about, God supplies endless, and don't overlook the little things that you have and simple instructions. The instructions given to you might be some simple, it may not make sense, but I'm telling you, don't overlook it. Don't overlook what you have also, how little it might be, right? So we're going to look at this story here in 2 Kings 4, 1 and 7. 2 Kings 4, 1 and 7. Jillian, big sis, thanks for checking in. How are you doing today? So we don't overlook the little things. So we look at this story in 2 Kings 4, 1 through 7. 2 Kings 4, 1 through 7. This is a story with a widow's oil, this widow, right? So I can read this and then we can talk about it. All right. The wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elijah, right? Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my two boys as his slave. So this woman's husband died, and you people. So these people saying, okay, since you don't have money to pay, we can take your two boys as slaves to work off the debt, right? Elijah replied to her, how can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house? So Elijah saying, okay, she go to Elijah. She said, man, you know my husband was a real follower, and doing everything, following you guys and believe what you guys saying and following and doing all his the religious duties and everything. So, hey, I need some help. So Elijah replied to her, how can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house? But I want you to take note of how she started out answering this question. She said, your servant has nothing at all. She said, we could have stopped right there, right? Your servant has nothing at all, she said. Then she went on, except a small jar of olive oil. Your servant have nothing. But she could lead off with the olive oil. How much of us leading off like that? I just don't have nothing at all. But then when you really examine it, how much things you do have. Something you might count in as little, and it's a lot, right? So she said, your servant has nothing at all, she said, except a small jar of olive oil. Except a small jar of olive oil. Karen Belgrave, good morning, good morning. How are you doing, cuz? So she said, your servant has nothing at all except a small jar of olive oil. So here's these instructions, guys, and I want you to know, this is a simple instruction Elijah gave her. She could have refused to do it and say, it don't make sense. What are you telling me, Elijah? I come to you for some help because, to pay off my debt. And you telling me about little olive oil I got in my house. So here's the instructions Elijah gave her. Elijah said, go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Elijah, what I got to do with my situation? I owe people and I trying to pay them. You telling me, but go around and ask people for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside, shut the door behind you and your sons, pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side. So Elijah said, hey, go and borrow as much jars, big as jar, borrow jars from all your neighbors. That little bit of oil that you got, you thinking is nothing, I'm going to show you how much it is, right? So you go and borrow jars from all your neighbors. Get as much as you can. Go, lock the door behind you. Go in your house, lock your door, you and your two sons in there. And then you pour a little oil in all of those jars. Now, that makes sense? Right? That don't make no sense. She could have said, Elijah, what foolishness you're telling me? That don't make sense. I barely tell you it's a little bit of olive oil I got. The olive oil I got is not even a couple of drops in one of these jars. So what are you telling me, Elijah? But here what happened. She left him, shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were filled, she said to her son, bring me another one. But he replied, there's not a jar left. Then the oil stopped flowing. You see, when this oil stopped flowing is when all her jars were filled, right? But this instruction was so simple. This instructions was so simple. Borrow jars, the little oil you got, just pour it in each jar. How much of us are overlooking the simple instructions like this? How much of us are looking at the things that we have and saying it's a little, just like how she said, I have nothing at all, but a little bit of oil. So the little bit of something you have, it's a lot, and it can be multiplied, just like how this is multiplied here. But we gotta believe, and we gotta have that faith. See, this woman didn't question. She didn't question him. She went ahead and do just what he said. And let's see how the story ended up. She went back and told the man of God, and he said, go, sell the oil and pay your debts, and you and your son can live on what is left. So you see how her situation was solved here? Her boys got all because she was obedient and she followed. So you go, it's like, as I always tell my son this thing. If you go, we go to the doctor, something is hurting you, something is wrong with you. If we go to the doctor, and the doctor tell us this is what got to be done, we got to go and do it. What use we going to them for if we could have fixed it ourselves? If we don't want to follow the advice what they're giving us, they might say do this stretches 3 times a day for 10 days straight or 6 weeks straight. Every morning you do this, you do that, you put ice, you do that. You got to follow the instructions to the T because you went for the help. You went for the help. If you're going to go to the help, you got to follow the instructions. What are you going, getting the advice, and you're not following it, and you say it's not working, right? And that's like what God's word is. Lots of time to telling us stuff, and it don't make sense to us, but that's why he said in Isaiah 55, 8-9, he said, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. So a lot of stuff, things these scriptures can tell us, it don't make sense to the natural. But if you're waiting for things to make sense, you're going to wait in forever. Because as he's saying, his thoughts and his ways is higher than our ways. Just poured a little oil. Wade called him more. Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing, sir? So she get this advice to pour this oil in these jars. She went ahead. She didn't question how this can happen. And she of herself said, it's a little bit of oil that I have. It's just a little bit of oil. Elisha, first of all, she started saying she had nothing at all. Yes, your servant has nothing at all except a little jar of olive oil, right? So I'm saying, it's just like what God's word saying, give to the poor and you're lending to me and I'm going to multiply what you got. Are you saying that don't make sense? I need to give to my rich friends who got something to give back to me. If I give to the people who in need and who have nothing to give back to me, how they're coming back to me? He's saying, you give to your rich friends, give back to you, that's your reward. It's done. You got nothing else to get from me. But I'm telling you, when you give it lend to the people who is in need, or the poor who in need, you lend into me, and I'm gonna repay you. It don't make sense to the natural man, to the world. That don't make sense. I gotta give to people who can do something for me. Right? I got to invest my stuff in people. But that don't make sense. So that's what I'm saying. These simple instructions here, guys, it don't make sense. But we got to have the faith and follow what his word is saying. Just like this woman here. She needed money. She go to Elijah for advice. Elijah tell her what to do. She went back and followed it, even though it didn't make no sense to her. Even though it didn't make no sense. Elijah, I'm telling you that my husband owed these people, he's dead, and I don't have money to pay them, and they're going to take my boys for slaves. Elijah said, okay, what you got in your house? All I got is a little bit of oil. He tell her, go and borrow jars, and keep pouring a little bit of oil in all those jars. That makes sense to you in the natural. Does that make sense? No, but she didn't worry what don't make sense. She went to the man of God for advice. He gave her the advice. It sounds simple enough, and that's what solved her problem. That was simple, right? So, number one, take away from this story. Don't overlook what you have. You might thinking you have nothing just like her, but the little that you say you have, it's a lot and it can be multiplied. You just got to think now in ways how you can multiply the little that you have, right? And with God's help, it can become a lot. All right. And the next thing too, simple instructions. You got to follow these simple instructions. They might sound simple and it don't make sense, but follow the simple instructions. It's not lots of times it's not a big complicated thing and give you breakthroughs. It's the simple little thing we overlooking because we looking and saying this thing is too good to be true. It's too simple. This is not what I'm looking for. Is more complicated. She probably tends to say what I'm looking for is some bank to give me a big loan, somebody to do this, somebody to give me this, or somebody to give me that. Not knowing what she have in her house, alone, the little she have in her house was enough to solve her problem. And she didn't have to go out and be in debt, more debt to pay off debt. The little that you have right now, it's a lot, guys. So don't overlook it. Open your eyes, look around you, see what you have, the situation you need solved right now. You probably have the answer right in your own house, right in your own hands, right in your own head, right in a vicinity where you can touch, and you're overlooking it because it's looked too simple and you're considering it as nothing. All right, guys. So I'm gonna leave that there. I just want to be an eye opener for you. But thank you guys for checking in. Wade, what you're saying, it doesn't make sense, but it makes faith. Thank you, Wade. Thank you, Wade. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you guys for checking in. We'll talk again on Friday, guys. So don't overlook what you have. It may seem a little to you, but it is a lot. All right. Have a great day. We'll talk again on Friday. Goodbye.